Civilizations are not simply collections of people. They are systems, networks of trade, laws, belief, and labor that hold society together. When these systems function well, empires expand, cities grow, knowledge accumulates. But when the connections begin to weaken, decline follows. Not always suddenly, often gradually, and sometimes almost invisibly. Throughout history, many civilizations have fallen not because of a single catastrophic event, but because the structures that sustained them slowly broke down. The causes are rarely dramatic: environmental stress, economic imbalance, administrative overreach, loss of social cohesion. These pressures build over decades, sometimes centuries, until the system can no longer adapt. Consider the collapse of the Western Roman Empire. For generations, historians debated whether it was barbarian invasions, moral decay, or lead poisoning that brought Rome down. Modern research suggests a more complex picture. The empire faced mounting pressures on multiple fronts. Climate change reduced agricultural yields. Plague weakened the population. The cost of maintaining borders grew unsustainable. Tax revenues declined while military expenses increased. Local elites began hoarding wealth rather than investing in public infrastructure. None of these problems alone would have destroyed Rome. But together, they created a feedback loop. Weakened frontiers invited more incursions. Increased military spending required higher taxes. Higher taxes drove people from cities to countryside estates. This reduced tax revenue further. Administrative complexity increased as the empire tried to manage these crises, but the bureaucracy became slow and corrupt. By the 5th century, the western provinces could no longer support the centralized system. Power fragmented. The empire dissolved into smaller kingdoms. A similar pattern appears in the decline of the classic Maya civilization. Between the 8th and 9th centuries, dozens of city-states across the Yucatan Peninsula were abandoned. Early theories blamed invasion or epidemic. Archaeological evidence now indicates environmental and social stress. The Maya had built a sophisticated civilization in a challenging environment. They engineered complex water management systems, terraced hillsides for agriculture, and sustained dense urban populations. But the system had limits. Population growth increased demand for food and water. Deforestation reduced rainfall and caused soil erosion. Drought became more frequent and severe. Competition between city-states intensified as resources grew scarce. Rulers invested in monuments and warfare rather than infrastructure repair. When a prolonged drought struck in the 9th century, the agricultural system could not recover. Trade networks broke down. Urban centers depended on rural food production, and when that failed, cities emptied. The collapse was not universal. Some Maya communities survived and adapted. But the classical civilization, as a system, came apart. The Angkor Empire in Southeast Asia offers another example. At its height, Angkor was the largest pre-industrial city in the world. Its power rested on an elaborate hydraulic system. Reservoirs, canals, and moats captured monsoon rains and distributed water year-round. This enabled multiple rice harvests and supported a population of perhaps 1 million people. Historians suggest that this system became a vulnerability. Maintaining the infrastructure required constant labor and resources. Over time, the network grew more complex and harder to manage. Silt accumulated in reservoirs. Canals required frequent dredging. Evidence indicates that the climate shifted. Monsoons became irregular. Extended droughts alternated with severe floods. The hydraulic system, designed for stable conditions, could not adjust. Agricultural productivity declined. The state lost revenue. Elites competed for control. By the 15th century, the capital was largely abandoned. The empire did not vanish, but it fragmented and relocated. These examples share common features. Each civilization developed systems that worked well under certain conditions. But conditions change. Climate shifts, resources deplete, populations grow, Administrative structures that once enabled expansion become rigid. Economic networks optimized for one era struggle to adapt to another. Decline often accelerates when multiple systems fail simultaneously. Environmental stress reduces food production. This weakens public health. Disease spreads more easily in malnourished populations. Economic strain follows. Tax revenues fall. Governments cut services or increase levies. Either choice breeds discontent. Social trust erodes. Elites hoard resources. Institutions lose legitimacy. The spiral continues. Yet not all civilizations collapse. Some adapt. Some reorganize. Some fragment and transform into something new. The key difference often lies in flexibility. Societies that can shift resources, restructure institutions, or adopt new technologies sometimes survive profound stress. Those locked into rigid systems often do not. Understanding these patterns does not provide a formula for predicting the future. History does not repeat with precision, but it does reveal that civilizational strength depends not just on wealth or military power, but on the resilience of underlying systems, on the ability to maintain infrastructure, to distribute resources fairly, to adapt institutions when conditions change, to preserve social cohesion under pressure. The civilizations we have discussed did not fail because of moral weakness or divine punishment. They declined because the systems that sustained them could no longer function under accumulating stress. Environmental limits, economic constraints, administrative complexity, social fragmentation. These forces built slowly, often invisibly, until the structure could no longer hold. The archaeological record continues to reveal new insights. Soil samples show changing rainfall patterns. Skeletal remains indicate nutritional stress. Infrastructure decay becomes visible in abandoned buildings and silted canals. Each discovery refines our understanding of how interconnected failures compound over time. What these collapsed civilizations teach us is that sustainability requires constant adjustment. Systems must evolve with changing conditions. When they cannot, when they resist adaptation or lack the resources to transform, the accumulated stress eventually overwhelms them. The end comes not as a singular dramatic moment, but as the final stage of a long deterioration. History remains incomplete. Much evidence is lost. Interpretations shift as new discoveries emerge, but the pattern is clear. Collapse is rarely sudden. It is a process, a gradual weakening of the connections that hold society together. And it results not from a single catastrophic failure, but from the accumulated weight of pressures that a system, however sophisticated, can no longer bear.